So Kamala's staffers went on Pod Save America, and man, this was something. So I full disclosure, I did not watch the entire thing, but Crystal did, and Crystal was telling me it's exactly what you'd expect it to be. They're taking zero responsibility. They have no solutions. They have no, hey, if we change this or this, then it could work. So it's sort of like an ass covering competition now. So they're getting out in front of the public and they're making these arguments. What's interesting is that the Pod Save guys, in the immediate aftermath, they were making some sense, right? In the immediate aftermath, there was that hint of, Bernie Sanders may have been right. But now the establishment comes roaring back. All these consultant little sycophantic freaks, careerists, are rushing back in to tell their side of the story. And their side of the story is shockingly unpersuasive. So I got a couple clips here for you. Let's start with this one. Here we go.
Republicans don't make Trump apologize. And as Stephanie said, we don't have to mimic it. But I think that there are a lot of times where if you're in the Democratic Party and you step out of line, you get punished for it.
And that was what I was trying to say.
Thank you for being more direct.
Yes.
You get punished for it by your own party. Republicans do not do that.
Look at Kamala Harris's comments in the 2019 primary. The reason why even that was being discussed is because of interest-based politics.
I mean, we put out an ad with a cuss word in it, and the amount of feedback that we got was insane. And
from people within the party.
And like Republicans are, and it's like we have to, it's
a thing,
right? Where we have to respond to that. Obviously, we take that stuff seriously. We reach out to the people that have concerns. That takes time from us. They're getting calls.
Yeah, and by the way, that's part of the problem, right? Somebody expressed a little bit of disagreement with me. Let me spend the next 2.5 days trying to make it better. Is that what Republicans do? All right, hold on. Let's keep going.
Apologizing for this so that we're keeping our coalition together. Meanwhile, Trump is putting these Republicans in the worst possible political, or what would seem to be, and they support it because at the end of the day, they understand that it weakens Trump. And, this may sound like a shot across the bow, but it should be. Democrats are eating our own to a very high degree. And until that stops, we're not going to be able to address a lot of the things that just need to be said. And like for the masculinity piece of it, men don't like people that apologize. I don't know what age bracket, but it's called like standing on business. If you say something, you mean it. Trump does not apologize. If he says something, he means it, and his party stands behind him, and they don't make him backtrack it. Mm-hmm. And that type of infrastructure doesn't exist. We're also getting creamed online. I think one of the things about how, even in the states that we're not playing in, it bleeds over. The Republicans have a well-tuned, well-oiled, well-invested echo chamber that exists beyond where they're campaigning. And it's online. It reverberates through TikTok. It reverberates through the culture. There is a cultural dynamic that's at play in politics today where it is converging like we've never seen.
And we're losing the culture war. And whatever it is, woke, whatever word you want to use, I'm not, I leave that to anybody to define on whatever value, but we are not aligned on where we can be within that because there's always an opportunity. It may be very different for you in your state where you are, but at the end of the day, we're all Democrats. And I think that people are very advantageous to throw someone else under the bus, a fellow Democrat, if it means that they can rise above it in their own state, but we're missing the sort of forest for the trees. And I think we have to be better about that.
So to sum up his argument, he's basically lamenting the fact that there's a lack of enthusiasm on the Democratic side and there's a lack of loyalty on the Democratic side. And people will get really pissed off at you. They'll eat their own, right? This is the argument that he's making. I find this such a curious argument because, guys, enthusiasm and loyalty don't just spring up overnight. You have to earn that, right? And they act like, well, you guys should be enthusiastic and you guys should be loyal without the team giving us a reason to be enthusiastic or loyal, right? Like, so they're talking about Trump. Wow, he's got the enthusiasm and the loyalty. Well, how did he get that? He got that by playing hard-nosed politics and doing the carrot or the stick and breaking the back of the Republican Party and chugging its spinal fluid right in front of everybody. He didn't grow that overnight. And then, by the way, also, they're sort of overstating the case. Like, there absolutely is going to be dissent and disagreement within the Republican ranks. John Thune is the Senate leader for the Republicans. That is not the MAGA choice. The MAGA choice was Rick Scott. You already have, the neocon faction and the paleocon faction, and on trade, you're going to have the free traders versus the protectionists. The idea that it's all hunky-dory on the right. No, it just appears more hunky-dory because Trump, it's like water off a duck's ass if you go at Trump. He's either not going to pay any attention to it and bulldoze right over you, or if you piss him off enough, what's he going to do? He's going to do the carrot or the stick with you. He's going to fucking destroy you with one tweet and get your ass to fall in line. So if you want enthusiasm and you want loyalty, by the way, first of all, the thing where like people would be mad at us over a curse word in an ad or what, it's like, okay, don't fucking respond to them. Who cares? Right? Because you do it once, oh, people are upset. What if you do it a second time and they do it a third time and they do it a fourth time? By the fourth time, nobody cares. This is what Trump did. He says something controversial first time. Oh my God, headlines, everybody's upset. Does it again, does it again, does it again. By the third or fourth time, people are like, yep, that's Trump. He just gets away with stuff. He does what he wants, right? So you can copy that. If you want enthusiasm and loyalty, you have to earn the enthusiasm and loyalty. And look, I know people like this hate it when you bring this up, but I think it's factually correct. Who was the last Democratic candidate that gave us that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of loyalty? This is not a tough one. His name was Bernie Sanders. And then guess what? Since Bernie sparked enthusiasm and loyalty, what you guys did is you took that and you flipped it against him to pretend it was a negative. To pretend the Bernie bros are so toxic online. Oh, what do you mean? People have a candidate and they ride for that candidate and they love that candidate and they argue for that candidate and they try to fight back against the smears and misinformation? So you have that model. You have that model, but the difference is Bernie gave us something to be enthusiastic and loyal about. It was very clear where he stood. His dividing lines were obvious. We're going to go after the billionaires. We're going to go after the corporations. We're going to go after the big money donors because they rigged this system against you. I'm going to get you higher minimum wage. I'm going to get you universal health care. I'm going to end the corruption. We're going to address income and wealth inequality. Yeah, so people were going to ride or die for that guy because he meant it. He meant it. Whereas oftentimes with these more centrist corporate Democrats, it's finger in the air. What is the button I can press or the thing I can say in this exact moment for me to tell you the thing that I think you want to hear? And people are just going to fucking eyes roll in the back of their head, right? You're not going to get the independents. You're not going to get the swing voters because they're like, what do you actually stand for? For all of Trump's flaws, and he's got many, people they know what he stands for. Hey, name Trump's big thing, immigration. Building the wall, deporting people. They know. But hey, what's Kamala's big thing? Kamala's thing is Kamala, right? So, I mean, this is, again, I'm past the idea that you can't ever blame the voters. I actually think, like, what was that quote we saw the other day? Some guy said, yeah, a lot of people compare Trump to Hitler. And I think they're kind of right, but I still voted for him. Okay, well, if you say that and you expect me not to criticize you, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Of course I'm going to fucking criticize you. So I'm past this idea of don't criticize the voters. I think you can, and I think you should in certain circumstances, in certain instances. But in this instance, I mean, it just sounds like sour grapes over the fact that we couldn't generate enthusiasm and loyalty. And it's like, well, yeah, so maybe you guys weren't the people for the job. Or maybe Kamala wasn't the candidate for the job. So I don't know. All right, I got more for you. So go and watch this whole thing because it is infuriating. Basically, their position is we did everything we could and it just wasn't enough time. The turnaround wasn't enough and it is what it is. That's kind of their take. And it's like, look, that's partly true, but the idea that you do no introspection and you have no solutions as to what we could have done better to change the results of this race, that's just fucking cope. That's just cope. All right, more. Here we go. So here's David Plouffe. This dude ran Obama's campaign, or one of the people, I should say, who ran Obama's campaign. And what you're going to see, this is the most amazing clip. Because, first of all, he's like, man, it's really hard to win battleground states. Yeah, no shit, but that's your fucking job, right? That's insane. That's like a plumber being like, man, working on pipes is really hard. I fucked yours up. Sorry. Like, that's your fucking job, bro. But then listen to what his new conclusion is. You ready for this? Here we go.
It's always worth reminding people. It's really hard for Democrats to win battleground states. Let's look at Pennsylvania. 25% of the electorate is liberal, roughly. 34% is conservative. By the way, in most battleground states, that conservative number is over 40. So in every battleground state, there's more conservative than liberals. So in Pennsylvania, if experts are to believe, Trump won conservatives 91.8, Harris won liberals 93.6. Moderates, Harris won 56.43, but you kind of got to win 60% of them, right? For Democrats...
I can't. This is crazy. So he's saying, look, ideologically, here's the percentages, here's the numbers, and trying to figure out how exactly do I cater to these particular groups in order to win. He's thinking of this like an egghead. What's the problem with his philosophy? Guys, in 2016, in the primary, the Democratic primary, Hillary versus Bernie, even though he's a democratic socialist, would repeatedly drax Hillary Clinton in all of the conservative rural areas and the conservative rural states. He destroyed her. Now, an idiot like this would look at that and go, well, hold on now just a second. That doesn't make sense. Bernie won this Oklahoma primary by massive margins, but Hillary is more conservative than Bernie, and Oklahoma is a more conservative state. Shouldn't Hillary have crushed Bernie Sanders? Yeah, it turns out these ideological categories that you're talking about are kind of bullshit. They're kind of bullshit. The American public is incredibly contradictory. And you've all heard of this median voter syndrome. People will pull opinions from wildly different perspectives and parts of the political spectrum and think like, well, yeah, of course, that's what I believe. Somebody could self-describe as a conservative, and then you talk to them and, okay, they want a strong border, but they want universal health care and they want higher wages. And like the idea that, and it's also looking at politics like it's a stagnant thing, right? Like it's not ever changing and flowing. It's this idea of like, I crunch the numbers and we have this percentage is conservative, this percentage is liberal, this percentage is centrist. It's like, they're even wrong about this notion of like independence. In his mind, he thinks, well, independents are in between the Democratic and the Republican parties, and they have half liberal opinions and half conservative opinions. That's not fucking true at all. Some independents are fucking communists. Some independents are completely apolitical, right? Like, it's just, this is egghead shit. And you watch this and you go, oh, this is why Kamala lost. You're being led by eggheads. There is no, like, core. There is no vision. There is no, here's our vision of how society should look, and we're going to do everything we can to make society look this way. Because this is preferable. This is better. This is ideal. There is no vision. It's just like, how do I do my tweaks around the edges to cater a message which specifically will get this demographic and that demographic? It's like, you're never going to craft the exact right thing in order to do that. That's not how it works. We told you guys this. There was a blind study, and in that blind study, 80% of the voters preferred Kamala's policies to Trump's policies. So it's not just about policy. It's not just about policy. It's about narrative. It's about story. It's about vision. It's about authenticity. It's about, do they believe you? And it's just this right over his head. Right over his head. Wait, we haven't gotten to the worst part yet. Ready?
To win battleground states, it is a false choice. You want to maximize your base, of course. And that was a place where we spent enormous time, a lot of resources. That's critical.
That's... Come on, man. Come on, man. You can't say that that was the goal of this campaign. It wasn't. It wasn't. I gave them credit where credit was due. $6,000 child tax credit is great. Picking Tim Walz is great. There were a number of proposals that were like, okay, all right, I fuck with that. But towards the end of the campaign, she did more campaign events with Liz Cheney than anybody else. Right? She was talking about the military being the most lethal in the world. As Trump was going around saying, Kamala's a warmonger. Liz Cheney is a warmonger. I'm going to end the wars. The idea that, oh yeah, we put a lot of effort into getting our base, riled up. Come on, man.
Obviously, I think in Milwaukee, just to use that as an example, we hit our turnout targets, fell a little bit short in Philly and Detroit. So that's not good. That's part of the equation. You've got to couple that with dominating in the middle, not just winning it a little. We have to dominate the moderate vote. And I think as we look ahead to 26 and 28, particularly where you have seen drift amongst non-college voters generally, particularly those of color specifically, we obviously have to get some of that back. We can't afford any more erosion there. The math just doesn't fucking work.
She said we have to dominate the middle. We have to dominate the moderate vote. Again, it is a total fucking myth that the quote-unquote moderate vote is moderate on policies. That's a myth. The middle, the independents, the swing voters, all have different reasons for voting and different issues they care about and different things that they put over others. Like, it's just a myth. Again, so his answer is, and again, this is a non-falsifiable claim, which is why he says it. Oh, yeah, I know we sort of catered a lot to the wealthy folks in the suburbs, the former Republicans, but we didn't do that enough. That's really his takeaway. That's his takeaway. Oh, we did a lot to shore up our base. We did all we could there. But, man, we didn't win that middle. We didn't win those moderates. And so, the only logical conclusion based off the argument he made is, We should have done more events with Liz Cheney. We should have maybe been able, hopefully we should have been able to flip George W. Bush to endorse us, and then we would have done events with him. Like, this is honestly what he believes. This is what he believes. So he thinks, like, maybe she should have talked more about owning a Glock. Maybe she should have talked more about being tough on the border and blaming Trump for blowing up this tough border bill. This is what he believes. And I don't, like, for the life of me, it's crazy to me that nothing blows up their model of politics in their head. No matter how many times, like Hillary lost in 2016, Kamala loses this time, nothing is blowing up that model in their head. They can never say, you know what? Yeah, we were just wrong. Maybe our whole approach to this is totally backwards. And if you can't see it now, you will never see it. Because again, their takeaway is more events with Liz Cheney. Move further to the right, get more, like the Democratic coalition now is more wealthy than it's ever been before. So you succeeded in what you were trying to do. You know, Chuck Schumer said it. For every one working class voter we lose, we'll pick up two wealthy voters in the suburbs. Well, you kind of did that, and it wasn't enough. It turns out you need the working class. And so you should cater more to that working class. And again, it's just, if people don't believe you, if they don't think you're authentic, if they don't think you have a vision, good luck trying to get them to vote for you. And that's the thing. Because these are voters, and they never think this through. These are voters who just pick somebody who was rambling about Arnold Palmer's cock. They pick that guy. They pick the guy who said he's going to deploy the U.S. military in our own streets against the enemy within. And they still pretend, after watching those people break for that guy, they still pretend like, we should have been more moderate and picked other, like, a more rational takeaway would be, we need to talk about Arnold Palmer's cock. That would be a more rational takeaway than the idea of, we need more Liz Cheneyism. Adam Johnson's been saying this on Twitter. Their argument is true Liz Cheneyism hasn't been tried yet. All right. I mean, there you go. Zero responsibility, man. Zero responsibility. And we gotta rout this consultant class. They gotta get the fuck out. They are professional losers. And I haven't even touched on the fact that, over $1 billion was spent, and so much of it was fucking wasted. And how much did these assholes get paid? Like, win or lose, they get paid the same. And there seems to be zero reputational hit, even though they failed twice against a clown like Donald Trump. In a world that made sense, clean house. None of these people would ever have a job in Washington again. But just like many things in the rest of our economy, it appears like politics is an anti-meritocracy. That's what it is. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.